crisis. Let's try to understand this migration crisis or xenophobic crisis that we are seeing in the world today, from the United States of America to France to South Africa. We see a new way of doing politics. I mean, we see a new version of politicians who want to be elected. And for them to be elected, they have a kind of message, not really the message that we are used to, such as we're going to create more job by investing in the economy, by boosting economy, so forth and so on. But mostly the message is we are going to get rid of these foreigners because they are the ones who are taking your job. So this is what we see. Like recently, the United States of America have actually canceled the green card program, which have been running for years. Every year, America used to absorb like 55,000 people from different countries around the world to contribute to its economy. Donald Trump canceled that, and he is actually at war against what he calls the undesired alien, migrants, undesired people, criminals who come to America to pollute the culture or to pollute the American economy, so forth and so on. And we see the same thing in France. For example, in the recent elections, there were somebody called Éric Zemmour. He was running with the same program. His campaign was all about migrants. It was just a xenophobic campaign. He was promising French people, you elect me and I get rid of all these foreigners, all these migrants. Marine Le Pen in France, she's known for the same thing. In Italy, the same tendency. In South Africa, the same tendency. But the question is this really a new phenomenon? I mean, is the migration a new phenomenon? Because as far as I can tell, migration is as old as the human history itself. In fact, our ancestors are known to be nomadic people, to be moving from place to place in search for green pastures, running from climate conditions that were not conducive for their lives. They were hunter-gatherers, actually, our forefathers. So migration has been a historical phenomenon. But why is it so important today, to the point where if you do a Google search, you can find it among the global crisis? Really, you know, the beginning of the first industrial revolution and the entering of the world into what we call globalization was accompanied by a lot of migrations, but that has never been an issue. But today, why is it an issue? This is what we are trying to understand. And by understanding this from global perspective, we can also try to learn something as African people to see how we can position our politics with regard to all the development in the world. We say peace and love, freedom and decolonization to all African people, those at home, those abroad, and those in the future. If you have two shoes, please sell one and buy sword. If you have two trousers, please sell one and buy sword, because now it is time for revolution. And this revolution is no longer on streets. This revolution is in the mind, because if we are not in charge of our mind, the enemy will take control of our mind and turn our bodies into tools of self-enslavement and self-destruction. Once again, peace and love, freedom and decolonization. My name is King Kabbalah from the African Continental Unity Party. Please receive our revolutionary greetings. So, we are tackling another important topic today about migration or xenophobic crisis that we see in the world today. In the United States, as we're speaking right now, you know the news, you know what is going on there. People are being killed in the name of being foreigners. In America, we have seen the same thing in France, in Italy, in England, South Africa, and other countries around the world. So, as I asked the question before, why is this very important right now? And this is what we are going to try to understand. The first thing that I want to discuss is about countries. Countries or civilizations, they are almost like living organisms. As you know, all living organisms are born, they grow, they achieve maturity, and eventually they die. So are countries. Countries are born, they grow, they expand, they flourish, and they arrive at a point where they can no longer grow, which is called a climax of their growth. And from that point, the move forward is to descend from where they came from. And eventually, countries die. You can compare countries to trees. There are some trees that can last for thousands of years. There are others who can last only for decades. So, countries, there are countries that can last for millennials, right? And there are other countries that can only last for centuries. In any case, each country must grow and arrive at the climax of its growth, right? And from that moment, it stagnates and it begins to decline. That's reality. And that's what happens to all countries. If you look in the past, you see Egypt. Egypt flourished. Egypt lived for thousands of years and dominated the large part of the world. And today, Egypt is nowhere to be found except the modern Egypt that we know, which is a replacement of the original Egyptian people who were actually the black people. The same thing with Roman Empire. It's dominated a part of the world, and today Roman Empire has descended to a role of small countries, same as the current Egypt, where they have to be students to another global power, such as the United States, so forth and so on. So this is how countries live. So I'm saying all of this to make a point, and the point is, every time a country arrives at its maturity, at the climax of its growth, at that moment, the country's economy stagnates to the point where the economy is no longer growing in face of a growing population, but the economy is no longer able to grow in order to take care of its population. No new jobs are created, no new opportunities are created. Actually, some brains that can solve problems in that country are leaving the country to go to other countries that are showing now promises. And the jobs, the existing jobs, or some of the existing jobs actually are relocated to another part of the world. That is what mostly happens when countries arrive at the climax of their glory. When countries are about to descend, to decline, we see the stagnation of economy. That is what you can see now in the United States of America, is what you can see now in France, in England, in all these countries. And the point is, when country arrives at this point, it cannot make a U-turn. When the country has achieved its growth cycle, it can no longer recreate itself in the same manner. It has to descend. No matter what it does, it will never go back to the same position. So it is to say that, for example, the United Kingdom, the UK today, United Kingdom of Great Britain today, regardless of what policy it can enact, what politics it can choose, the UK will never set the sun on it again as it used to be in the past. That time is gone past. It can no longer outgrow its climax. It is gone. It has to descend, right? And it has descended actually, and it's still going to descend again to the line of small countries which are not significant in the world matter, such as Italy, such as Egypt, such as Turkey, and all these countries. So the point is, the crisis that we see in the world today, the xenophobia that we witness in the world today, it is just a strategy by the new politicians who have run out of ideas on how to solve the problem the economies are facing. They find an easy pass, an easy strategy, which is to blame their country's problem on foreigners. Then they will tell people that the reason why you are suffering is because we have these aliens, these foreigners in the country who have come to take your job and your economy. So if you elect me, I will help you to get rid of these people so that you can get back your job, which is often not happening because all that they want is power, is to be in the position. They don't have real solutions. In other words, I'm trying to say that every time politicians run out of ideas, they always find outsiders to blame for the things that they have themselves created in the country and the things that they are not able to solve. So they use manipulation in order to be elected by the people. They appeal to the emotion. They use what is called sensationalism in order to just get elected, but they don't have real solutions for the country and for the growing population that need job, need food, need a lot of things because the economy is stuck and is declining. Let me give you an example. Actually, before I give you an example, what is interesting to notice is that most of migration crisis, most of xenophobic attacks that we see in the world today take place in countries that are industrialized countries which we know that they have strong economy. That's where they have attacked, they are waging war against migrants, not in small countries like Tanzania, like Kenya. No, the attacks happen in the United States of America, an industrialized country, in France, industrialized country, UK, industrialized country, South Africa, industrialized country. Why? Simply because these countries have achieved the climax of their growth within the current conditions. They've arrived at the top of whatever maturity they can arrive. And all that they have to do now is to decline. They are in a free fall. So what they have to do, the only thing they can do is to prepare for a safe landing or to do what can be called damage control. There's nothing else they can do. But because politicians are always opportunists, they will have to find a way to be elected by blaming the crisis, the structural crisis, on the migrants. You see, I've been recently to Uganda, Kampala, and I noticed that there were lots of foreign nationals in that country, mostly people from DRC and people from Sudan. Actually, at some point I was thinking that I'm in another province of Congo because there were a lot of people there from DRC speaking Swahili and Congolese language, so forth and so on. So I asked one of the local comrades there, do you guys have some movements in the country that rise up against foreigners in your country? He said no. No, we don't have those kind of movements. Then he made me laugh by saying that if you go on the street, Museveni will slaughter you. But I think the point is, in these countries, you don't get a lot of hysteria against foreigners simply because these are the countries that are still growing. The economies are still growing. They're still young countries growing economically. So all the people who come to the country are being absorbed by the economy, including the growing population of the country are absorbed simply by the economy. And secondly, these countries have accessible land to the people so that even though the level of unemployment is higher, but people can always turn back to their backyard where they can find vegetables, tomatoes, onions, and cook the meal and eat for themselves and eat with their kids. And they don't have hysterias against foreigners. They don't go on the streets to say that foreigners have taken our jobs, they've taken this, because they have means of survival. They have access to the land. Unlikely in countries such as the South Africa, UK, United States of America, all these countries are industrialized countries where the land is owned by the minority of the people. The rest of the people have but only one option in order to survive, which is to get a job. And if there's no job, it means that these people have no other options to live. They have to put their anger on something else. And politicians are good in helping people put their angers on foreigners. This what exactly is happening now in America. This is what is happening in France, in other countries where we see organized movements against migrations or against uh, foreigners, or literally organized xenophobia against so-called outsiders. That's the things that we don't see in most countries that don't even have strong economies, as I've just said, Uganda. Simply because these people, they know that this land is ours. I can always grow my own food in my land. I don't have to rely on formal employment. I can do my things and sell my stuff in the market and I can still survive. This is not option that is given to somebody, for example, in South Africa, where you find the people living in small shacks, small houses, and they don't have the land, they don't have space to grow their local or community garden. Those options are not given to them. So the only options to go on streets and to do what anger leads them to do in order to survive. If you look in the world today, you will see that there are countries that are in the position of takeoff and other countries that are in the position of lending. And the countries that are lending are such as America, France, other countries that have industrialized, countries on which the economy is already saturated. The only option is to go down. But when you look at Africa, Africa is actually the future of the world, because Africa is not about to land. It's not just about to finish. Africa is about to take off again, to rise again, because we have all that is needed to rise and to flourish once more. So the mistake that some aspiring politicians in Africa can do now is to borrow these politics in the United States of xenophobia, this politics of xenophobia in America, in UK, because they work there. Of course, when you come up with that speech, people try to listen to you, because the easy thing, the simple thing that you can do to deceive people is to try to show them other people who are supposedly responsible for their sufferings. And this is what these countries have been doing. And the mistake that we can do as Africans is to try to imitate these politics of hysteria, this politics of fear, this politics of xenophobia, to manipulate our people by telling them that if you don't have a job, it's because you have foreigners in the country. If you don't have economies, because you have foreigners in the country. And then if you elect me, if you vote for me, I will help you to get rid of these foreigners. Something that we all know it is not possible, because most of those who have claimed to get rid of foreigners have not succeeded. Even Trump is not going to succeed. He's going to be out of office shortly, and other people will be in the office, and the same foreigners will go back. Actually, it has been happening. The Haitian people, you get them out of the country, 2 months later, they are back in America. Even in South Africa, South Africans are complaining about the same thing. You get rid of a foreigner, the next month or the next day or the next week is back in South Africa. So the point is, we don't have to rely or to borrow politics from countries that are in decline. Africa has a future and bright future. We have to think our politics out of our own reality. We have to imagine solutions that we can put in place today to make sure that we create more jobs, we create more opportunities for our people in all these African countries. Because even if we get rid of foreigners, one thing remains factual, and that is our own population continues to grow, and we'll have to create jobs, to create opportunities for all these people who are leaving school. And if we base our politics on the fact that they are migrants, they are aliens that have to be taken out to create space for other people, then we're making a mistake, because we are not building our economy with a vision, or with a vision of growing, or with the growth vision. We are building our economy with fear, with hysteria, or I should say, with damage control, preparing to land. We don't expect to grow, we are expecting to crash. That is a mistake for Africa. So this is for all aspirant leaders, aspirant politicians in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Uganda, in South Africa, in Congo, in Ghana, in all over the continent. We have to think creatively what we can do today or what we can do once we are in power in order to create opportunities for our people. The I think the reality is that foreigners are just peripheral problem. The main problem is the structure of our economy that we have to uh, boost, that we have to make grow, that we have to make big, that we have to make it capable of taking care of all the people in the country. So Africa must learn from this. And the most important lesson that we have to learn is that our economy must take off. It's not supposed or is not about to land or to decline. And for that to happen, we need to come up with the strategies of growth. We have to preach the growth mentality to our people, not fear and hatred of each other or of other Africans. Because you get rid of all foreigners tomorrow, you begin then preaching tribalism. You are suffering because of this tribe is taking all the jobs, is being favored above all other tribes. And what's going to happen in Africa is a civil war. So I think we have to think in terms of long-term perspectives. There are always two type of solutions. You have a short-term perspective, you have short-term solution and long-term solution. And what we need in Africa is a long-term vision, the vision that will help us to recreate Africa, to create our economy in a creative way that cater for all the people of today and the people of tomorrow of the continent. I hope this message was important to you. And if it is, kindly like the video, subscribe and share it, and support us in any way to make our voice strong, because this is the voice of the people. Peace and love, freedom and decolonization to all African people, those at home, those abroad, and those in the future. We see you next time. Bye-bye.